I'm a former documentary producer at WRAL. I'm also a former Hunt staffer. Um, I did, a biographical documentary on Jim Hunt for WRAL.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much. Again, I won't take up too much of your morning here, but it's helpful to get to speak with people like yourself who had close relationships with Governor Hunt. So, kind of first and foremost, you mentioned your time working with him in different capacities. What was working with him like?
Working with him could be exhausting because he was so full of energy. It was hard to keep up with him. I think I was, more than 20 years younger at the time when I was working as his deputy press secretary. But as a reporter covering him, you only get the outside view and you see him as the great orator and communicator he is and was. But when you went and worked with him on the other side, up close and personal, what I discovered was, all the words and the talk and the oration, there was sincerity and substance behind it all.
Why do you think he was able to resonate with people so well?
I think it goes back to him being such a great communicator. He's very personable. He's like a preacher. He engages his audience and he speaks to them on a very personal level. And I think people could relate to his words. He wasn't, that sincerity came across in when he spoke to you. And he was just very persuasive. He would draw you in and you would listen to him and you would believe in him and you would buy in because of the way he communicated, because of how he talked to people on such a personal level.
And on that same point, I mean, 4 terms is a hefty feat for anyone. What do you think it takes to accomplish that?
Success. I mean, he always accomplished a lot. You know, this sounds kind of cliche, like it came from a campaign speech, but he really did spend every waking moment thinking about ways he could make North Carolina better and making life better for its citizens. I saw that. It was very true.
What do you think his legacy with North Carolinians is going to be?
I think they're going to look back and realize in hindsight what a terrific governor he was, what a great leader he was. But more than that, what a great human being he was. He, they didn't make any, I think they threw away the mold when they made Jim Hunt. He was just a captivating, charismatic person who was true to himself and what he believed in. And he was very passionate about not promoting himself, but about promoting the state and about making sure that the state moved forward um, in a good way. I think that's what made him a success, but that's also how people will remember him. An example of how hard he worked, and that's another key to his success. He was a tireless worker. And when we worked with him, we rotated traveling with him. And it was a double-edged sword because on one hand, it was great. You got out of the office and it was fun to travel with him around the state. On the other hand, it was a long day. And at the end of the day, he had given you about a dozen things you needed to do the next day. And they were all related to positive things to try to make the state better.
Is there something that would surprise people about him?
Hmm. Um, I would say that he was very, very passionate, and you never saw the other side of that in public. But when things weren't going his way, when he did not achieve a goal or a success that he wanted to achieve, he could get a little angry about it. But that was part of his passion.
Is there anything else, for someone like myself who was never able to meet him, what would be the number one thing that you would want someone like me to know about him?
I would want you and everyone to know that Jim Hunt was just a really good man, much more than a politician and a governor and a leader and a speech giver. He was just a really, really good person. And when you're a reporter covering politics like I was, you get a little cynical and it was a challenging move to go from covering him to working with him, switching from being the one who asked the questions to the one who answered them. But I never had to worry that I was going to defend anything that was indefensible. He was the same person behind closed doors as he was in front of them, just a good person. The saddest thing to me about his passing is that I don't think there will ever be another Jim Hunt. He really left a legacy that it's going to be hard for anyone else to top.
It certainly sounds that way in speaking with everyone. The news definitely hit hard in our newsroom when it came down. So I appreciate getting the chance to learn more about him through someone's lens like yours. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, after I left Hunt's office, I went out on my own as a freelance producer and was later hired by the North Carolina Business Committee for Education to produce videos for Jim Hunt's annual Entrepreneurial Schools Awards banquet. And so I worked with him on those too over the years, and that was fun. So I had this kind of off and on relationship with Jim Hunt, pretty much most of my career, and it made me a better person.
Yeah, how many years would you say you spent working with him kind of collectively?
Um, I don't know. It's hard to say because I covered him as a reporter, but that's not really working with him. I worked with him directly for almost 2 years, and then kind of off and on and during my freelance years, even when I was working as the documentary producer for WRAL, we interviewed him for a couple of documentaries that we did. So it's been kind of off and on for, a little over 30 years, probably.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you again. I appreciate taking the time to honor him and to help me, have a better understanding of who he was. I really appreciate it.